welcome back. Recently I posted on the channel the test ride video, which if you haven't seen, it's like the 2 videos back. I made one on the vapor honing cabinet and the roll around dolly when I built the roll around dolly for the vapor hone. And just prior to that video was the test ride video where we took the Valkyrie here out on a 192-mile test ride. And I basically found 2 problems with the Valkyrie. One was that the clutch seemed like it didn't engage until the clutch lever was almost completely out. So that seems off to me, and I haven't really looked it up in the manual yet, so I'll be doing that shortly. But also I had a hard 1-2 shift on it and some grinding at certain times. It seemed worse at higher RPM than if I just used the first gear to get me a rolling start and then switch to second. The low RPM shift to second was no big deal, fine. But if I wound it out at all, I seemed to get this hard grinding shift to second, which, you know, could conceivably be the fact that the clutch is either worn, damaged, or that the hydraulic master and slave cylinder are not working correctly. So I guess the first suspect would be air in that system. So I need to do a bleed on that system. But many people came back to the Valkyrie Cruisers forum after that video, went and watched that video, and they had a lot of different observations, and most of them told, one guy said that they were straight cut gears in the transmission and it's a clunky shift from first to second. In fact, several people backed that up, and several people in the comments outside of the forum also said that they didn't think I had an issue, at least with the transmission, because the only way to service that transmission is to split the cases. I'm going to have the motor out of this bike hopefully before long anyway, but I really need to try and diagnose this problem before I take the bike down, because if I don't, I might wind up splitting the cases only to get inside and find out there's nothing wrong in there. And splitting the cases on this bike is no small endeavor. It requires several special tools, or you have to fabricate several special tools. Some pretty impressive special tool fabrication going on the VRCC forum, I can tell you that. Guys making clutch holding tools out of 2x4s and stuff, which works. That works great. In fact, a lot of guys have made most of their own special tools. I've ordered some, you know, of course, some of the sockets and stuff, the, you know, odd duck sockets and stuff like that. And a lot of that times, if you keep an eye on eBay, you can find those special tools used on eBay. So most of those special tools, basically what they have to do with is getting the clutches and stuff off, clutch frictions, and the transmission main shaft nut, and there's a main shaft holder that you have to have so that you can hold the main shaft still while you tighten stuff. And it's kind of in depth, and I haven't done any of it yet. I've only read it, you know, cursory out of the factory manual, and so I honestly don't know a whole lot about what I'm talking about right now, because I haven't done any of this. And I've done a lot of mechanical stuff my whole life, but I haven't been inside the Valkyrie. So it's elementary. The manual is nicely illustrated, and I think we can figure all that out. But to make a long story short, what I need to do is I need to bleed the clutch, master cylinder, slave cylinder, and see if that doesn't get that clutch working more like it should. And I need to install something called a shift buddy. And the shift buddy is a little device that we'll get into here in a minute, and it's supposed to take out this slop. It mounts on this shaft back in here, and it gets affixed back there with a bolt, and it's got a hinge pin, and it's supposed to support this so you get more direct and positive shifting. So I'm going to install that. In this video, we're going to bleed the clutch system, hydraulic system for the clutch, and which is all hydraulic, there's no cables, and we're going to put the shift buddy on. So thanks for coming, and let's get on with all of that. This is the bleed tube for the clutch, right under the fuel selector here. Let's turn that off for a minute. So we're going to go ahead and install a collection bottle on that. Okay. They say to turn the, I took the bike off the lift, they say to turn this handlebar all the way to the right and to make this level, and it don't look very level to me. Almost wonder if this shouldn't be loosened and stood up here. I don't know how much is going to come out of this, but you see whoever's been here before us has boogered these up, and it's probably because they didn't use a JIS standard Phillips head screwdriver, which is the JIS is a Japanese industrial standard, and they've got this one so boogered. I don't know that I'm going to get it out. Yeah. I'm going to work on these just a little bit to see if I can improve that a little bit before we totally wreck them and have to drill them out. I'm going to try to put some of this buggered metal back into place here. Also, the tapping might shock some of this. You can see where that's kind of going back. The tapping also might shock loose some of the electrolytic corrosion between the steel fastener and the aluminum hole. It's a flat, just a flat steel punch. Just trying to knock the metal back. I have replacement screws for these, but they're not in here, obviously. I've never had these out. Couple of good wraps to maybe break it loose. Okay, that doesn't look like that's going to work. I'm going to try an impact. Do you think this bike spent some time living outside in its past? Got that one. Tell you the detent ain't very good on this. Cheap Harbor Freight, Chinese crap. Got it. So just in case, I have a drip pan on the driveway down there. It sure doesn't seem like this is level, obviously. Obviously it's nowhere even close. So if you look at these screws, by using that flat punch, I was able to knock down the boogered up part and kind of put it back where it's supposed to be, and then tap in the new bit, and that gave me a fairly decent purchase, at least enough to break these loose. So let's see what's under here. Oh, a little bit of a drip. Yeah, I don't know. I guess that would be on the sight glass if I could see through the sight glass, which I can't. I'm hoping to correct that, but if I even use these controls, I might not use them. I have some other ones. I don't know if they're as good though. So, okay, so we'll just set these pieces aside here. And what we're going to do first is we're going to drain this whole thing and put new .4 in it. This is the float. They say to get that on out of there too. Yeah, this fluid is, I don't know if the camera picks it up or not, but the fluid is really murky, super murky looking. That's a good sign, I guess, since the clutch doesn't seem to be working right. I doubt that has a whole lot to do with it, but we're gonna change it all. Cracking this bleeder open. This is a 10 millimeter. And we're gonna squeeze the clutch gently. It says to do this until there's no fluid left in the reservoir, and it's going down. Doesn't look like it, but it is. Looks like it's mostly going backwards. So you can see the problem here. Even with this turned all the way to the right, this isn't level. So this is now exposed to the air, and all that fluid is still left in there. It's no big deal. I mean, I can suck it right back. I can suck it out. I've got an evacuator, but this procedure, as per the manual, isn't that great. So I think I'm going to cheat a little bit. So you can see this is a little grungy, so I'm going to clean that up a little bit, and then we'll go ahead and fill it and bleed it. I don't want to shoot brake clean into that. There's rubber parts in there, even though we're going to fill it back up with brake fluid right away. So I'm just shooting it onto a paper towel. I'm just going to get down in here and mop this out a little bit. I saw on RRC Restoration, he did a 250 Honda, and that's a great series. If you haven't done it, I think it's 14 parts. Excellent. And that guy's he's a wizard. He's awesome. He does beautiful stuff, beautiful restorations. Fellow from Scotland, nice guy too. I've talked to him. I'm one of his Patreon supporters, so I've talked to him numerous times. Well, numerous times, a couple times on email, and he's been very gracious to, you know, get back to me when I had a question on something, or you know, why he did what he did and all that. And he's really good. Really good. It takes a little while sometimes to get him to answer back, but he always does. At least he has the 2 times I've spoke out to him. And he's always very apologetic about it. I'm sorry I got back to you late. You know, it's not usually very late. It's like a couple days. But I try not to bother him, of course, every once in a while. But I think he's just a great guy. At any rate, he did a Honda 250 dirt bike just recently, 14-part series, and he was able to find replacement sight glasses for these, for the master cylinder, the front brake master cylinder on that. And I looked on the Partzilla, you know, Honda parts website, and they sell this whole piece, but it's of course unavailable. So I've got these really terrible looking sight glasses. I don't know if I can just lightly sand those and then buff them out. I think maybe I can get them to at least be somewhat functional if I do intend to keep these controls. So, alright, so we're pretty well cleaned up there, I'd say, and ready to put in some fluid. So stand by. We're going to use this fluid evacuator to give us a little help here. You can see it's evacuating that very nicely. This is .4 from an unopened bottle. I'm just going to fill it all the way to start with, because we need to fill this whole thing now. Theoretically, it should actually just gravity fill, but it's going to be slow at best, so I'm going to give it a little help. What we're looking for is fresh fluid to come out of this, because we know there's nothing in there now. So give it a little. Yeah, and it's taking fluid. Try to make sure you keep it full. Don't let it get all the way down there. See, there's vacuum on that pump right now, and so starting to get our fresh fluid down the line here. Okay. Yeah, so that's probably good. Let's close the bleed. This is finger tight. We're good on this. We haven't gotten air in there. And find our 10mm in my pocket. Close this off. So you can see we got a little more fluid out that was dirty, and the fresh fluid followed on behind. So the bleeder is shut now. I'm going to undo this right here and suck that fluid down into the catch bottle, and that should take care of it. Before you put this back together, I want to draw your attention to this little bit right here, this little thing right here. And it appears to be a flapper. I can tell because this is the way it goes. It's right side. This is the right side up, like this, because I can see the dirt that I failed to get off of here. Let me clean that just a little bit. You can see the dirt that was there. This fell out. I didn't even know it was there. It's not listed in the manual. So yeah, under the rebuild of the clutch master cylinder, it's not listed, this part. But it looks to me like what it is some sort of a flapper. So I'm going to put it back in. I just want you to be aware it's loose in there and it could fall out on you. So make sure you get it put back in where it's supposed to go. It's not wanting to cooperate very well. Get in the hole there, dude. So apparently I hooked it on the paper towel and it fell out. And I found it on the driveway. I heard it hit and I'm like, what was that? So that's where it goes. Be sure you don't lose it. I assume it has some sort of a function. I don't know what that would be, but, or if it's really that critical, but hey, it came out of there, so probably need to go back in there. Now we can go ahead and put our pieces back on. I'll start with this float and this rubber thing. The plastic is insert, and then the cap with all the warning writing on it. Back up just a little bit. Just drawing these down equally. Clean up good after our work. Make sure if we see brake fluid, we know it's leaking. Of course, I suppose it'll puddle up on the floor or on the lift or somewhere. Take the paint off the lift. If you look right here, there's a little punch mark on the handlebar. You can't see it through the camera. It's very small. It's a tiny little punch there, like somebody used the center punch, which I'm sure was factory. That lines up with this crevice that between this outer clamp and the inner, and gives you your set for where your control is supposed to be. So you just put that punch mark on them, right on this crack, and then your control will be in the right place. And there's one that, if you look in the back of this switch right here, this is your clutch switch. It looks to me like they left you a way to clean those contacts. If you ever have trouble with this, you just slide a little contact file in there and you could clean that. It doesn't look like they left you any option to take it apart, because it looks like it's like plastic welded together. Just can't really get in it except right there, but then so can all the moisture and grit and crap too get in it. So that's kind of interesting how they did that. But here's a little dowel locator, goes in this hole, and the screw holes down below here. We'll just put it in its little dowel pin hole there. See if we can get this screw a couple turns. Hold it all together. Not too tight, just, you know, don't crack it. Okay, that's how you bleed your clutch on your 98 Honda Valkyrie. This is the shifter buddy. Shifter buddy. I was calling it shift buddy, but it's the shifter buddy. Comes with a seal. It came with no instructions. And this is the unit itself, which alters the pivot point of the shift and supports it by this bolt on the bracket. Can you see that bolt? Probably can't see that bolt. So this guy right here slides over this shaft and is secured by this bolt. Behind this there's a spacer back here, so it should be fairly simple to see where it all goes once we get it apart. So going to do that next. We're also going to change, look at this. Let's see if I can show you. I'm right below the shift shaft. It's not horrible, but it's pretty filthy, like it's been leaking back there. So hopefully this seal will correct a leak too. Though it's not dripping on the floor, so it's not much of a leak. For your viewing pleasure, I'm going to remove this foot peg right here. And not do it very gracefully. That bolt right there in the middle of the screen is on the end of the shifter linkage. This kind of odd-shaped shifter setup they did here. So I'm going to back out so you can see where I am. A couple of the exhaust pipes here. Frame, foot peg would normally be there. It's right in there. You can see it. Just follow this. And you'll see that it's right there. And the seal is behind that. So that all has to come off. Of course, the easiest way, which wouldn't probably be very easy, it'd be to take the pipes off, but we're not going to do that. So we're going to try to muscle this thing in here without that. I apologize, I'm going to have to put my wrench on that. I've got a 10 millimeter with a wobbly, about a 3.5 inch wobbly extension. I'm going to try to get on that with. What I would call a very tight place to film. Of
course, I have a 6-point socket, which makes it even tougher to get the socket lined up onto the fastener. Only has very few opportunities to go on, so we're getting it. This bolt has to come all the way out. Passes through a groove on this shaft, so if you don't get it all the way out, you won't get the shaft to move at all. So grab it with this magnet. Now should be able to maneuver this off. Okay. It's coming ever so slowly. There it is. Okay, and this was just like totally vertical, so this pretty level. The gear shifter pretty level. Okay, there's the old seal. Sorry, I have to hand hold this, so it's a little shaky. Okay, the seal is out. I'm going to wipe that out real quick and put the new seal in. Okay, all I did is just with my fingers is press that new seal in place. It didn't take no seal driving, no nothing, no tapping, no prying, no nothing. You just got to push it around there and use your fingertips on both sides of it. Get it started easy. The Soul Glide helped a lot, and it just slid right in. So we're good to go there. Now we put the gear shift lever back on that we took off to start with. That should be it right there. I cleaned this all up on the wire wheel too. So there you can see we're back on. Now we got to get the bolt back in it. So a little trick I learned in the gunsmithing industry was if you just take a piece of paper towel, lay it over the top of your socket, push your bolt down in it, it'll hold your bolt in your socket for you, so you can maneuver it around, you know. So I'm putting this on a long, by long I mean maybe 12-inch wobbly, and then I'm going to go in from back here. So hold on and let me reposition this camera, and hopefully you can see what I'm doing. Okay, I'm going to go on now with another wobbly. Come back way back here and just kind of tighten that back up. There we go. Same thing, the bolt's got to come all the way out. And it's grimy, so it's going to want to fight. Not that much of a fight, but a little bit of a fight. Okay, now look at this. That's what we're trying to get rid of. There's a spacer. Okay. Shift buddy goes on here. So I'm guessing this, since I have no instructions, I'm guessing this Allen is pointed outboard so you can get at it. And then this hooks to there. Then you can kind of bring up the tension on this whole works here once you get it all lined up. So we're going to go ahead and put it in there. So let's Alright, abort, try again. Click, click. What do they say? Made sure to bring it up to factory specs. Okay, now it's time to tighten this Allen under here. Let's see if this is the right size. Yep, that's it. Okay. But they're also saying to use Loctite on it. Okay, there's a shot of the shifter buddy installed. And I guess now, that's a huge improvement, man. That's massive. I guess now the thing is to put the foot peg back on and then back it off the lift and go for a ride. See what happens. So obviously that didn't go well at all. I'm not getting how this shifter buddy deal is supposed to actually work. It looks to me like it's impeding the movement of the shaft itself. I'm not convinced that I have this thing even on correctly, or that it's in the right place, though. I don't know. I'm not convinced this is a solution here. I couldn't even get third gear half the time, and the shifting was extremely difficult. So we're going to go out for it. I've just disabled it. I just swiveled it out of the way, basically. I just disconnected it here from the mount and disconnected it down here, or then rotated that out of the way and then set screwed it in place so it's out of the way. So it's completely disabled right now, and I'm going to go for another test ride. Old saying, folks, that if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. I was really hoping that you know, we would have solved this issue, this first second gear grind, but changed the .4 in the master cylinder and made sure it was well bled, and it seems like it has good pressure. I don't know if the movement's up to snuff. I assume it is. I mean, I don't really know unless I were to go and, you know, maybe take it apart and actually, you know, study the throw on it. I don't know if that can actually even be done. Has good, you know, the lever has good, plenty of lever. I mean, I don't know, I'm kind of out of ideas on it. I think I'm just going to have to tear into it. I don't know any other way around it. I'm pretty dang certain. Tried all kinds of different RPM shifts, tried, you know, preloading the shifter, and tried to follow everybody's instructions as best I could. I mean, I have no problem with the gears, the rest of the gears shift great. But that 1-2 shift is something wrong there. Something wrong there. It's grinding. If that's normal, then I don't believe that's normal. I just don't believe Honda would sell something like that. So
I've had Hondas over the years. They've all been good bikes. Honda makes good product. I drive a car. I have a Honda CR-V. Yeah, I think I'm just going to have to tear into it, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to split the engine cases open to get in there to see what's going on. It's a tall order, but I have the manual, and all I can do is go step by step through the manual and hope I don't destroy anything trying to do it. And it kind of breaks my heart because the bike freaking runs good. I mean, it starts good, it idles good. It just is a good running motor. I mean, it just kind of makes me sick to have to go into the internals of it so far because of this. But, you know, let that be a lesson to me and anybody else. If you're going to buy something like this, don't just buy it sight unseen off the internet. I kind of did it that way just because I thought, well, I'll just jump in with both feet. Seems like a low miles bike. It was one of the lower miles bikes that I'd seen, if indeed it really has 16,000 versus 116,000. I think the 16,000 number is correct. I really do. People have told me how to spot the, you know, a bike that has a lot more mileage on it, and my bike doesn't have any of those signs. So I think it did a lot of time parked outside. You know, I've said that before, so I think that's why its fit and finish is a little rough on it. But and it's a great riding bike, and if it would just shift from first to second gear without grinding out, that'd be nice. I'm a little afraid to ride it very far now because I don't want to create a bunch more damage on it. So I think that's probably the last time we're going to ride it, and until we put it back together after the rebuild. So so I guess that's it for this one, and I'll sign it off, and I'll see you on the next one. I could hear you screaming at me when I was putting this thing on. I just couldn't make it out. Couldn't make out what you were telling me there. I had the linkage flipped the wrong way on it. I didn't have any instructions that came with this thing. It just came in a little plastic bag, Chinese writing all over it. I think it's a knockoff. You look at the one on, there's a Facebook group for Shift Buddy, and the Facebook group, which I didn't look at, still haven't looked at. I just got it from a guy on another YouTube video that was putting one of these on his Valkyrie. And if I'd have watched his video a little bit more carefully, I wouldn't have made this mistake. And I wouldn't have had that first test ride that was a total bomb because I couldn't shift the bike. If you put this thing on flipped the wrong way, you can't shift the bike. But I sat here last night before I went and looked at any more information, and it finally came to me. This shaft has to be able to go up and down. When it does that, it actually rotates the shift shaft that's through the side of the case in a circular fashion. So the way I had this, it captivated this ability of this thing to go up and down like this. And after I sat and stared at it for a while, I thought, I've got this backwards. So then I went in and I started doing some reading online and checking the stuff, you know. Might help to look at that first. But at any rate, because I'm so smart, I decided I'd figure it out myself. Anyway, I did figure it out myself eventually, but I had that whole first test ride was a complete bust. So the second test ride, when I disabled it, the bike shifted a lot better, but still ground into second gear. And I sat and I listened to that while I was editing last night, and I listened to it through headphones, and I'm like, you know, you can't really get the full flavor of that grind off of the camera. I have a GoPro camera mounted right here, looking at my foot on the shifter, and I also mounted a camera up above today
That's going to keep an eye on the forward view and the speedometer tachometer. I'll see if I can put both of those in some kind of synchronicity on the video. I'm not sure if I will be able to do that or not. I know the editor's capable of it. I'm not sure if I know how to do it yet, but I'll play with it if I can do that. Otherwise, I'm going to cut this as short as possible because, you know, it's a kind of a do or die thing. I don't think this Shift Buddy is going to solve the grind. I really don't. And there is definitely a grind. So I cannot believe that that's the way this bike should shift like that. If it does, I just don't believe Honda would do that. I don't think it comes through very well, good enough on the audio, and maybe faking some of you out to say, well, it sounds just like mine. I'll bet you money it don't. I'd love to find another guy with a Valkyrie so I could, you know, go for a ride on his bike and see if his shifts that way. But you know, straight cut gears and all that stuff. You know, honestly, I just think there's an issue. I really do. I just don't think the camera's putting it across good enough to you. But at any rate, let's go for another test ride and let's see if there's any improvement now that the Shift Buddy is in the proper orientation. I just can't. I was just going to take the thing off and throw it in the trash, but honestly, I sat down and I thought they wouldn't be marketing this if it didn't have some validity, and it definitely was my fault. So, my mistake, and trust me, I make a few. So, here we go. Let's go see if this makes any difference at all. If not, that's that. We're going to have to tear into it. there you go. I think that pretty much settles it. We got a good grind going into second gear. I don't know why. So it's just going to be, you know, we'll have to figure that out when we get in there. The teardown's going to start pretty quick here. I can't see any other reason to test ride the bike anymore. There isn't anything else that I can really do about that issue, the clutch engagement issue, if it is an issue, and the other issue of the second gear shift. So thankfully all the rest of the gears work great. The bike runs great. I hope it runs as good when I get it put back together. That's the only thing I worry about, is messing something up that you know, is going to cause this engine to not run. I mean, it starts and runs so great now. It's just a shame to have to mess with it, but it needs messing with, because I can't be having that thing grinding all the time. It drives me nuts. So none of my other bikes do it. I'm pretty sure this one's not supposed to do it either. So anyway, that should illustrate pretty well. The shift buddy worked fine. It seemed to, I mean, all the gears that shift great, shifts great. So I don't notice a huge amount of difference from before, but it is less wobbly, that's for sure. So I suppose it's probably a little more positive. But as you can see, you know, no matter what RPM we start out at or shift at, most often, with very few exceptions, we get the first to second gear grind. So something wrong in there. We're going to get to the bottom of it for sure. So anyway, thanks for coming, and you know, I hope you're enjoying this series. Leave a comment, you know, if you got any questions or concerns about anything. I'd be happy. I answer all of them. So if you know how to talk to me, you know where to find me. So anyway, take care. We'll see you on the next one.